Morning to you. Good morning to you. I'm First Alert meteorologist Patrick Ellis here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Of course, we're coming with you here this morning on our social channels to get you kind of ready for what's heading in our direction. We'll probably do a few of these between myself, Chief Meteorologist Rod Childers, as well as First Alert meteorologist Riley Winch and First Alert meteorologist Eric Brill over the next couple of days, because this is going to be an active couple of days that we're going to be getting ready for here across the Mid-South. You see behind me, 28 degrees officially at Memphis International here at this hour at 9 o'clock in the morning on January the 20th, 2026. And of course, that's where we're starting off the day here across the Mid-South. The good news is that we'll have a fair amount of sunshine to go around. Sunshine will push the temperatures up into the low and mid 40s here today, and a great day of weather here across the area comparatively to where we could be going here in the next few days. Let's first off talk about where we will be heading, because there's going to be some changes coming in our direction here very shortly. One of those changes will actually come by way of rain that moves into the region here as we head through the course of your day tomorrow. So when we look at our First Alert Futurecast, you're going to notice a couple of things here. This is starting off this morning. Obviously dry, clear, beautiful day, but it will be a cold one here across the Mid-South. Notice as we go through tonight, no rain showers, but rain does become an issue for the overnight period into the start of your day tomorrow. So tomorrow morning, just a plain Jane rain here across the Mid-South. Yeah, that will slow you down along your morning travels as you're kicking off the day, getting the kids to the bus stop and yourself off to work, but nothing that is overtly detrimental, nothing that you can't handle here as we go through the course of the day on Wednesday. Maybe a couple of pockets of maybe a quarter of an inch of rainfall in our southernmost communities, but for the most part, about a tenth of an inch of rainfall before this one's all said and done here. But then we go into the next thing, and of course that's going to be that cold air mass that's going to be moving into the area. First Alert weather day now in effect for Friday night, Saturday into Sunday. This will be a pretty long duration event that could unfold for us here across the Mid-South as we go through this time frame. Now, understand, there will still be a lot of variability, a lot of changes coming up here. One of those ways to stay up to date will be on the Action News 5 First Alert Weather app. You can download it in the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. If you're joining us maybe on social media and you got it pulled up on your computer, grab your phone, take that picture of that QR code, and you can download the app right there in the palm of your hands. Of course, staying up to date with the very latest forecasts from the First Alert Weather team, and also news, the updates coming in over the next few days, because I can tell you this, as we go through the next few days, you're going to want to stay up to date because things will change pretty quickly, and occasionally there may be more of a whiplash situation. I'm going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. There's a lot of people who have been out there talking about the potential where the Apple app or your generic weather app may have said accumulation totals up to such and such an amount. Let's be honest with ourselves here. That lends to, unfortunately, the hype of a winter system. We live in the South. Things can change on a dime very quickly. When we talk about severe weather, when we talk about winter weather, things can and will likely change. We're still 3.5, 4 days out from this even beginning, and there will be changes moving through the next couple of days, but we wanted to at least give you that heads up that things could get active and that you want to be weather aware and attuned to the situation here. So let's go ahead and talk about one of those things. We're going to show you a couple of models here and how this may play out for us. Now, again, this is going to start on Thursday. Okay, this is let me make sure that it's the right one. This is going to be the European model. So this will be the European model I'm going to show you here. This will have no accumulation amounts, but it will show where zones of snow, freezing rain and sleet, and rain will be located at. So as we run this through here, you're going to notice it's going to see rain down to the south. You see the pink areas. That is indicative of icing. Okay. This is another thing that will be an issue if you are looking at some of these weather apps that have totals being affixed to dates, because the models don't do a very good job of delineating between what is snow, what is freezing rain, what is sleet. And sometimes that can mess with what you see as a total as snow totals. And that also gets injected into those generic weather apps. So that's why you've seen a lot of variability the last couple of days. Some of you may have seen At one point yesterday, I saw 19 to 24 inches of snow in my neighborhood in Shelby County. To say the least, I don't think that it's ever snowed that much, period, over a couple of day period here in the Mid-South. So, there are some outlandish things, and then there are things that are more based in reality. What is based in reality is that we do have a storm system that will likely form here in the next couple of days, and it will bring us a multitude of events. I don't think this is going to be a purely snow event for every single section of the Action News 5 coverage area. And for some, this will be an impactful icing event. Some, this may be an impactful snow event, but it depends on where you are, how things will play out here in the next few days. So this is just one model's depiction of what could be on the way. Like I said, this is the European model. I'm going to move over. Now you're going to see kind of the same look here, but notice how the pink gets pushed a little farther down to the south. That is the GFS model, okay? It's still showing the potential for icing all the way up to about I-40. And north of I-40 is more in the vein of snow. And this has changed even this morning. So there is still a lot of variability that will come along with this forecast here. And what we're going to be watching for is some of the impacts that will be the mitigating factors in what could ultimately fall out of the sky, okay? So we do have the cold Arctic air. That is a lock. I think that that's going to be very noticeable the next couple of days. There's a decent surge of moisture that's coming in, not only off the Gulf, but also off of the Pacific Ocean. But the Arctic high, okay, so the blocking high that really gets this storm system consolidated and strengthening, that will be part of the story. Its placement and its strength, okay? So what do I mean by that? Okay, obviously we know that the Arctic cold is coming in here, but that Arctic high and its placement and its strength will ultimately determine how things fall out when it comes down to precipitation types. There is still going to be, like I said, variability here in the next few days. This is not a slam dunk forecast when it comes down to where things are going to be happening, how much will be happening. This is an ever-evolving forecast. And to be honest with you, with any winter system in the southeast, it tends to be that we really don't know until the first flakes start flying. And that will be probably late Friday into early Saturday. So between now and Friday, there's going to be a lot of changes that we're going to have to watch out for when it comes down to it. But that Arctic high placement, two things that we'll have to watch out for. Like I said, the placement. If the high is too far to the north or it's too weak, that will have an intrusion of milder air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere that will have more of an issue of freezing rain, sleet than snow, okay? So that means that mixing would be more of a problem for more sections of the Action News 5 coverage area. If the high pressure ridge is too strong or too far to the south, it could completely clear out because it's dry Arctic air. It can completely eviscerate the snow chances to the north, but it may bring snow farther down to the south and take the issues of mixing out of the equation. So there's a very fine line here when it comes down to this system coming into play here the next couple of days. But I do want to let you know, again, I've showed this before, the Mid-South snow rules. It is hard for it to snow here in the Mid-South. And the reason why is because you have to have everything lined up perfectly. If it's not lined up perfectly, there's something that will give. And right now, it's not necessarily lined up completely perfectly. There are a lot of elements that say, yes, winter storm potential in play, but will it be something that is going to be a full snow event, or will it be an issue where we're going to have to deal with mixing problems? Cold air needs to be locked in. Well, we'll definitely have the cold air, but it's going to be fleeting, at least in the short term, because we'll actually get up closer to 45 today, mid to upper 40s tomorrow, upper 40s close to 50 on Thursday. Before the cold air starts to drop in here, we may start off on Friday with rain. okay, at least briefly, until we can start to see the temperatures coming down. So temperatures will probably be mid to upper 30s early on. They'll come down closer to freezing by the end of the day. So it's a falling temperature day, and as the column of the air starts to cool, that's when you start to see that changeover. So the question mark is, where exactly is the column of the air going to be the coldest? Well, probably at the surface, but about 5,000 feet above our heads, at least initially, there could still be some warmer air holding on for dear life. And if that's the case, that's why we could have some mixing issues, at least initially, with this. The reason why I point out number 3, this is going back to your generic weather app. And I will actually pull out my phone right now, okay? And I will pull up 2 things really quickly. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to talk about what the Apple weather app has, okay? For Memphis, Tennessee, for Saturday. Right now, it has 17 to 20 inches of snow. Like I said, I don't think that it's ever snowed more than a foot in one fell swoop here in Memphis. So that would be historic if it were to happen, okay? The other thing, too, is that at the very same time, I've seen this go from 7 to 11 inches. I've seen it go from 19 to 24 inches. I've seen it go in very short order. I think in like 3 hours last night, I think it went from one to another. So it's come down from the 19 to 24 inches I saw when I was in Millington yesterday afternoon. Compare that to the, 14 to 17 that I saw in Bartlett. And that's 10 miles? So again, these numbers are going to fluctuate. I had a friend of mine text me today and said, oh, the numbers did fluctuate. Because I told him, I said, you don't focus in on the numbers. Focus in on the impacts. And I'm going to tell you the exact same thing. Focus on the impacts rather than the numbers, okay? We'll get to numbers. I know that's what you want to know, but at the end of the day, the impacts are what you need to know. That's what's going to affect you and your family, ultimately, okay? Number 4, sleet, freezing rain messes up snow totals. What did I just say? Models have a hard time in delineating between sleet and freezing rain. They accumulate at a different ratio. A standard snow ratio here in the Mid-South is like 10 to 1. So for every 1 inch of liquid that falls, 10 inches of snow would fall out of the sky. Sleet falls at a 3 to 1 ratio. So for every inch of liquid, 3 inches of sleet would fall. To say that we could have, some significant totals in some parts of the area, it's a possibility. There's a lot of moisture that this system is going to bring into the area. It would not be surprised if we have about 1 inch of liquid equivalent here. So it is possible. It's not a certainty, though, that we could have these higher totals that come in here. But again, it's all about the mixing potential and the potential for snow in parts of the area and then mixing in other locations. That is going to be critical in what ultimately we give a forecast for numbers, okay? If it's going viral, it's likely hype. I've said this before, it continues to be the case. Modeled winter storms come and go and are a dime a dozen. This one has stuck around with us, okay? It started probably Thursday or Friday last week. We started seeing some inklings of this system. Of course, we were still working our way through the few flurries that we ultimately ended up getting Friday night into Saturday. Tried to bring down the hype that came along with that, because the week prior, that system, people were saying that we were going to get a big one for Friday. What did you get? For many of you, you got a couple of flurries, or a few of you got a few flurries, or a quick snow shower. But many of us, that happened overnight, and we didn't see anything actually accumulate here across the Mid-South. The other one, 50 miles will make a difference between rain, mix, or snow. I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to run this model run through, and I'm going to show you that very idea, okay? This is the European model. And again, we'll get new model data throughout the course of the day. Probably by midday, we'll have the new GFS that comes in, and then Ron will have a look at the new European probably, and he will have an updated look coming up here during the 3 o'clock newscast today. This is the European model, okay? That shows that freezing rain line just about to like Luxora and Ripley and out towards Crockett Mills. And then it goes back down towards the southwest, out towards Wynn and Little Rock, okay? This is the GFS model. it has come north on that freezing rain potential, okay? I will say that. It has come north on that freezing rain potential. It's got it more so like Millington to Little Rock, back to the north and east up towards Nashville, right along the I-40 corridor, okay? That's like a 50-mile difference. I mean, not even 50 miles. But just a difference in 50 miles will have an ultimate change in what you will see. And there will be a portion of the area, and I'm going to go back over to the European because for a look at this. And let me go back over here and do this. Well, no, for some reason it locked up on my screen. So let me just run that through really quickly because I can see it's moving on one screen. It's not moving on the other screen, the one that I'm actually controlling. So when it comes down to it, again, you see that line here. That line has a tendency, just north of it, where you have the transition zone, near that transition zone, that's where you're going to get your jackpot total, okay, wherever that line just happens to be. I'll be honest with you, somebody will get a jackpot on this. And when I say jackpot, I mean this will be a doozy for you. From the standpoint of what is falling from the ice snow perspective, you're going to see something, and it may be significant. And typically it's within about a band from about 30 to 40 miles on either side of that band where you typically have that situation unfolding. So I'm going to go back over and talk about those winter storm rules. We'll call them guidelines, as the one and only Chief Meteorologist Ron Childers would say. At the end of the day, just stay calm. This isn't, we're not reinventing the wheel here. We definitely have had winter storms before here across the Mid-South. And of course, our bread and milk meter up to a 6, okay? Now, you're probably thinking, well, he said school's closed. School ain't in on Saturday. Yeah, I know. Impacts are going to last until early next week because we just don't get it back above freezing. So, when it comes down to it, we're going to start having impacts as early as Friday afternoon, Friday evening. I'm not your dad. I am not the school system. They will make those determinations ultimately. I'm just giving you a heads up that more than likely, you and the baby's going to have a snow day on Sunday. If all this comes to play, you and the baby's going to have a snow day on Monday, okay? So that's the thing that we're going to work into. And keep in mind, if we have a significant snow event here in the Mid-South, it's going to take a while for things to clear up as far as roadways. Just in Shelby County, I think there's like 5,000 road miles that Public Works will have to get out there and clear up. DOT have to get out there and clear up. That's going to take time. And if this is a long-lasting event that starts Friday evening throughout the day on Saturday and does not wrap up until Sunday, it's going to be really hard for things to come to an end and they clear the roads and everybody's back to normal business by Monday morning. It's just really hard for that to happen. Now, is it possible that I'm overblowing this and, Shelby County or anybody's county works can get out there and do it? Maybe. Maybe it's like maybe we got superhuman strength out there. And I would hope that that's the case. But these guys are going to be putting in overtime. And not to mention our linemen. Hopefully we don't have to deal with too much icing, but it is a possibility that we could have issues with that as well. I know, Hannah, we've got some questions. She's sitting over here, our digital desk maven, I would like to call her. I know we have some questions, so let's talk to the people, if you will.
Katie Simmons wants to know, what will the driving conditions be like on Sunday?
Sunday's not going to be good. And if this all comes to pass, let me say this. If it all comes to pass here with what we are seeing here today, because things can and will likely change between now and the end of this week. Sunday, things will be wrapping up from a precipitation standpoint, but they won't be completely done until probably lunchtime on Sunday. So I have a hard time believing that church won't be impacted on Sunday, and then other things like garbage pickup and schools won't have impacts going into the early portions of next week. To say where exactly how things will play out, we're still a little iffy on that, but there is still a very large signal that's hard to ignore from a winter storm standpoint. So whether or not you end up with more ice than snow or more snow than ice, wherever you just happen to be, it's going to be impactful enough that it's probably going to be lasting because temperatures just don't get back above freezing until maybe Tuesday. You can get some sunshine to help out the process, but it's just not going to be a quick enough process.
Sandra Strickland wants to know, you can go over Mississippi again, what they plan on.
Well, depending, it's like, are we talking about North Mississippi just in general?
Yeah.
I will say North Mississippi is more than likely going to be more of that mixing zone than snow. I think you do wrap up with snow, or at least there will be a period of snow, but you're probably going to be dealing with more freezing rain and sleet as it stands right now. That will change more than likely and can change. So don't think what I'm saying here on Tuesday morning at 9:23 in the morning on January 20th to be the exact thing that will happen. Things are going to change. This is not set in stone. But as it stands right now, I'd lean more in the variety of a wintry mix, sleet, freezing rain, and then a thump of snow to go along with it on the backside.
Someone wants to know accumulation totals, but I know we've already covered that.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say we are not going to issue numbers right now. That's not where we are in this portion. We are just talking about the impacts. Impact. Do not focus on the totals. I'm telling you that there's at least a moderate impact that will have disruptions in your daily life as we go into the end of this week and into the weekend. Totals will come. We've got to hone in on exactly where things will happen and how things will play out. And it will be ultimately determined by those things I was just talking about. We got the cold, we got the moisture. It's just how deep of a cold air mass will we have? Will there be a warm layer aloft? Will that lead to more freezing rain or sleet? Or will that be a more snow signal? It's to be seen, and that will be adjusted over the next couple of days. Did I go through them? So far, okay. I'll take that. So again, just to kind of wrap up, and actually I'll go and pull up the 10-day forecast, and maybe, because this is moving at the speed of a snail here, I think it's probably because I have it pulled up on my iPad too. I wouldn't go there right now, but somebody regionally at least is going to probably have a pretty decent bout of a winter storm that will involve more ice than anything else. So I wouldn't say it per se that somebody's going to see a 94 ice storm, but I think that somebody, if not local, I'll say it on a broad scale because we're still kind of broad scale on this, that regionally somebody who's going to have an ice event that's not going to be great. And this may be a big one in that regard, along with, for some, a big one from the standpoint of snow. So there's a look at the extended forecast. Again, tomorrow's just a rain shower situation here across the Mid-South. We're going to watch out for some fog banks early on Thursday morning, and maybe, just maybe, see if this will go faster since I logged off of one of the I've got 15 splash tops open between about 4 different computers because I've been ripping and running through the newsroom here this morning. But I've got a couple pullouts that I think I can pull out here. There you go. Wednesday, this is just a rain shower situation. 48 the high temperature. Yeah, tomorrow morning it's just going to be plain Jane rain. Nothing to worry about there. And then some fog issues could be in play by Thursday morning. So because we're just not going to have enough time to really get the moisture out of here, I think fog could be a concern, at least for a part of your morning on Thursday. So a couple of impacts before we even get to the winter portion of this. Again, I'm still highlighting more so the wintry mix aspect. Even here in Memphis and Shelby County, we're threading the needle, and that's the thing. We have anecdotally in years past said about the I-40 corridor will be the line. It rings true again here today. It was funny because myself and Chief Meteorologist Ron Childers were talking early this morning, and that seems to be the ongoing thing. It's like north of I-40 is one thing, then south of I-40 is another thing. But again, we're still kind of leaning on that wintry mix. For everybody to see all snow, it would have to be that stronger Arctic high a little farther down to the south. If the Arctic high is a little bit weaker and a little farther to the north, it is possible that we're going to have more of that mixing. And it seems like, at least at this point, it's leaning a little bit more of the mixing near and south of I-40, and then the potential for snow a little farther to the north. We'll go back over and show you the modeling there. And let me circle back. It's probably going to jump a graphic. There we go. I knew it was going to happen. 45 today, by the way. 9:28 the current time. And then we'll pull out a look at the extended forecast for Saturday. This is one model's depiction of what could happen. Again, this may start off kind of a wintry mix, transitions over to some snow, then kind of a back and forth. You know, you see the pink there, that is indicative of freezing rain and sleet. And then the potential for snow would be just north of there, and it kind of goes back and forth. It's not a constant place, but it's kind of holding in one place or near that I-40 corridor. And I want you to look at the time frame here. That's Saturday at 9 o'clock. This started Friday evening. And guess what? If this holds together, you know, we're talking about this still lingering into Sunday afternoon with precipitation, not necessarily, you know, at this point we may not be fully accumulating, but I think we'll still have things falling out of the sky that will be in the frozen variety. So it's hard to say that, you know, when you look at things like that, that Sunday isn't going to be impactful, and then Monday will have impacts too, because look at the temperatures. You just don't see a lot of upward mobility from there. Any other questions, Hannah?
I don't know if you want to walk through power outages and how that works with freezing.
That's you know, a couple things will come along with that, and I do have a graphic for that. Give me 2 seconds, and I'll pull it up. Because we do have, you know, potential for some icing impacts. You know, when we talk about maybe up to a quarter of an inch of ice, that's more nuisance type stuff. You know, you might see the power line sag a little bit, tree limbs get some icing on them, slick sidewalks and roads. When we're talking like a quarter of an inch to a half an inch, that's pretty disruptive. That's when we could start to see scattered power outages. Roads are a no-go, and over a half an inch is crippling. I mean, impassable roads, lasting power outages, and then widespread tree and power line damage. The conversation of the 94 ice storm. I think at one point, the 94 ice storm, there were parts of the area that had like 2 inches of ice accretion. That is insane. So you want to hope that you're way, way lower than that. But anything over a half of inch of ice accretion, that causes big issues, and that would lead up to the potential for power outages. Like I said, we're not at the point of talking about, specific numbers, but if there is a area to watch, it'd be south of I-40 for the potential for freezing rain that could be significant in that regard. And as far as power outages is concerned, everybody's power situation is different. Some people have underground power. Some people have, the power lines above the heads, and those situations, are a little bit more of a problem when you have the overhead lines rather than below ground. So those are going to be situations that we're going to have to watch out for here in the next couple of days. And we're just hopeful that it's not going to be something that is going to be persistent, but it is something that we're going to keep an eye on. All right, so time right now is 9:31. I got to keep saying the date because people are going to log on here because this Facebook algorithm will show this in about 3 days' time in somebody's newsfeed. But on January 20th, 2026, we are going to be tracking this storm all week long. We'll have updates here on social media as well as actionnews5.com, the Action News 5 First Alert weather app, and I will have an update on the television side at midday today. Chief Meteorologist